Hey guys, lepedaler back with another video. Today I'm going to be comparing the Specialized Venge to the Specialized Tarmac and see the comparison between both bikes. So without further ado, let's get right into this video. So if you are new to my channel, I do post comparison videos about bikes, but I also post other cycling content in terms of beginner tips, training tips, outdoor riding tips, indoor riding tips, a bunch of cycling content. So if this is your first time here, I highly suggest that you subscribe to the channel and like this video because there will be a lot more cycling content for you guys to enjoy. So if you guys can do that, I would greatly appreciate it. Also, for everyone that's watching that's already subscribed and liked this video, I just want to give you guys a big thank you because you've helped grow this channel as of recently, and I continue to see the growth day to day. So I just want to appreciate and give my gratitude to everyone that's been doing that and helping the channel grow, because in the not so distant future with the growth of this channel, I hope to get these bikes in hand and do a lot better quality videos in terms of testing these bikes head to head outside. So with you guys and new viewers helping me grow this channel, it's going to be really easy to do that in the not so distant future. So I really appreciate you guys helping me to do that. So we are looking at the Specialized Venge Pro, and we're going to be comparing it to the Tarmac Disc Expert. And you can see right off the bat, one is the Aero Beast and the other is the all-around bike. And one trend that is actually true in 2020 is that now all-around bikes are becoming a lot more aero inspired. So you can already see right here some, we're going to zoom in right here. You can see there's some aero flares on this bike that you wouldn't have seen in the previous versions of the Tarmac, whereas on the Venge, they've redesigned it, because if you guys are familiar with the Venge, the first time I ever saw the Venge was the Venge Vias. I will put a picture right now of the Venge Vias, and that bike, when I first saw it in person, I first saw it online and I thought, whoa, like I saw the pros riding it and I thought that bike looks mean, it looks fast, and then I saw it in person, and in terms of specialized engineering, you know, they never fail to disappoint in terms of how bikes look. They look very aesthetically pleasing. But the one thing with the Venge Vias that, you know, the feedback was really negative was the ride quality. So, you know, when I rode it for the first time, I did not find it super comfortable. Then again, at that time period where aero was everything, and aero is always going to be everything to some degree, but you know, people were, especially pros, were willing to sacrifice comfort for those aero benefits. But if we're being honest, in terms of day-to-day, even at that time, a lot of people would probably like to ride the Tarmac just in general because it was a lot more compliant and a lot more comfortable. So, you know, the redesign, if you compare the new Venge to the old Venge Vias, they changed a lot of things to make this bike a lot more compliant and comfortable, which was probably the biggest critique that they got from the old Venge. So let's look at the Venge first. And I'll give you guys my thoughts, and we'll check out the specs and compare it to the Tarmac. So you can see it has a lot more carbon on it when compared to the Tarmac. Now, I don't want to get into the nitty-gritty details of all the engineering and all that stuff, because at the end of the day, you know, the thing that usually drives people to choose a bike is discipline, what type of riding, a big one, budget, and just in terms of what the bike will actually do for them. So that's the goal of these videos. Is not to give you guys all the marketing of the bikes. It's really to give you guys a condensed version of what I think would be best depending on what type of riding you do, or if you guys just want to know in general what the difference is, you guys can learn that from this video. So yeah, so there's a lot more carbon on the Venge. It has carbon rims. This is Ultegra Di2. I don't know if it comes with a power meter, but this is the aero bike. So, you know, an aero bike is for a rider that does a lot of racing, does a lot of criteriums, does a lot of fast, flat bunch group rides. So you'll see this bike excel where there's not a lot of climbing to be done. It's a lot of, you know, even rolling hills more or less, but it's where, you know, higher speeds, more flat terrain, and you want the aerodynamic benefit. So usually every time we hear an aero bike, it's usually 8 seconds faster over 30 or 40 kilometers. So yeah, so it's an aero bike. Now in terms of the cockpit, if you guys, I'm gonna zoom in here. Specialized spent a lot of time designing this, and I think it looks a lot better and probably is a lot more compliant than the old Venge Vias, and even with the seat posts, the bike just looks better. And I've seen it in person and I've ridden it, so you know it is better. But then again, I haven't ridden it as a daily bike, so I can't give you guys my true thoughts. Riding it once is not riding a bike, if we're being honest. So that's why liking this video and subscribing to the channel will help the channel get these bikes and we can actually test it. So let's look at the specs really quick. So as I said, it has all Ultegra, so front and back is Ultegra. Ultegra Di2 for the shifters, front derailleurs Ultegra Di2, rear derailleur Ultegra Di2, cassette Ultegra. Now let's see the crankset. So from what I can see, it does not have a power meter. Front wheel is a 50 Roval carbon tubeless ready, so that's great. Rear is Roval 50 also, so it's tubeless and it's carbon, so that's great. And yeah, so pretty basic. But the one thing that I would have to stress for the Venge Pro is, especially for the Venge model, is that the Venge model doesn't come with any cheaper componentry or any cheaper iterations, meaning that 8,000 is a pretty steep barrier of entry to get on this frame. So it goes for $8,000 and you're getting Ultegra Di2 hydraulic with no power meter but carbon rims. It's pretty steep. I'd say for this, you're paying for the aerodynamics of the frame, which can be quite expensive. But that's why I would have to stress that if you're actually considering the Venge, you should be someone that's either riding a lot or doing a lot of group rides or racing. I would say this is a race bike. It isn't a weekend warrior bike, in my opinion, unless you have the budget. But I would say this is really for someone that's racing. Now let's compare to the Tarmac Disc, and that retails for $5,500. So just right off the bat, you can see that has less carbon, which makes it a lot more compliant, especially when you're climbing. This is the all-around bike. I personally, for the type of riding that I do, and that I plan on doing in the not-so-distant future, once traveling is allowed and whatnot, is just all-around riding. So, climbing, descending, fast group rides, fast flash, fast racing, just everything you can tell. So the wheels, you can already tell that these are a lot more shallower. In terms of the tubing, you can see that there's less material. So it's just an overall, I would say, a more compliant bike. Now let's see what other colors it comes in. That's like a gloss. I don't like that color, chameleon. But I do like this color. I think it has a nice mix. But enough with the aesthetics. So what are we getting for $5,500? We are getting basically, I would say, from what I see, is the same. You can see that the cockpit is different. It's basically just a standard cockpit with a stem and handlebar, where this one is all aero. I'm not gonna lie, that one, the Venge looks futuristic. It looks cool, and it's like I've seen it. It looks cooler, and it's for aerodynamics. But is that necessary? I don't think so. Now let's see what else. Hydraulic, Shimano Ultegra, Di2 front rear derailleur. Everything's basically the same. They have 38mm disc carbon tubeless ready. So it's basically, in terms of componentry, the same. So you're basically paying almost $3,000 extra, more or less, or $2,500 more or less for the frame on the Venge. Which, like I said, if you really need that performance, if you're racing at that high of a level, I can totally see justification. Or if you want the aesthetics and you got the budget, then go for the Venge. But in terms of piece for piece, you're basically paying for the frame on the Venge, where on the Tarmac, you're basically getting a better deal if you're trying to save money and still get performance, because the Tarmac is the all-around beast. And the one thing with the Tarmac that, like I said at the beginning of this video, is that they purposely have put aerodynamic flares that are are present on the Venge, but now are somewhat present on the Tarmac. So you will roll a lot faster than previous iterations. And that's one thing I liked seeing, and I talked about this in the new TCR, Giant TCR video, is that they made the TCR have a little bit more flares that you would see in like Giant's aero bike, which is the Propel. So it's nice to see it. Cannondale did it also from the System 6 to the Super 6 Evo. So I like how companies are taking the all-around race bike and putting those aerodynamic flares to make it, a little bit faster, a little bit more efficient in flats, and to get those aero benefits without compromising it to get to the point where it is an aero bike, which some people don't want. I personally don't want that. I like having an all-around bike. So I would say the Tarmac is for the rider that does a lot of climbing, rolling hills, does some racing, does some group rides, and even if they don't do racing or group rides, just does all-around riding, and they want to be comfortable for long days in the saddle. They want to be comfortable when they do climb. So it's an all-around bike, right? Where the Tarmac is the all-around bike, the Venge is the aero race bike. So I would say for long days in the saddle, no one usually is going to pick the Venge. usually people are going to pick the Tarmac just because it's a lot more comfortable. And that's one thing with bikes, is that comfort is very personable. You know, some riders I know personally find aero bikes very comfortable. Some people find all-around bikes not comfortable. So it really depends on the type of riding you do, and just how you feel on the bike. So I would say if you guys are debating between both bikes, try what you can to go to your local Specialized retailer and test these bikes. Then again, it's kind of hard unless they let you ride it for a while. But you can definitely tell right off the bat with a lot of bikes. I would say the biggest thing when choosing a bike is figuring out what type of riding you plan on doing it, because usually you won't have enough experience with a bike unless you actually get to test ride it for longer than a week to see if you really like it. So usually the best informed decision you can make is figuring out what type of riding you do. So that's the goal also of these videos, to give you guys some insight and from my experience. So if you guys know right off the bat you don't plan on doing races, you don't really plan on doing a lot of fast group rides, or maybe it's 1 or 2 times a week on the weekends that you do fast group rides, and a lot of the time you're doing solo rides where there's rolling flats, rolling hills, and you want the best of everything, you know, the Venge is not for you. It's going to be the Tarmac. But on the contrary, if you are a racer, if you have a whole season dedicated to racing, you know, the Venge Pro is going to be amazing. The Venge in general is going to be an amazing frame. Just the only thing that's disappointing is that they don't have a cheaper model of the Venge. They don't, like, it's like I said, a very high barrier in terms of price to get your hands on one of these. So that's one thing to note, is that if you are on a budget like most riders, the Tarmac is the better one and the more realistic one. So I really hope that brought some clarity in terms of the comparison between the Specialized Venge and the Specialized Tarmac. If you guys did enjoy this video, please smash the like button and subscribe to the channel. I really do hope to improve these videos with actually getting the bikes in hand. So I'm trying to do the best with what I have available to me, and that's usually just comparing them on the website. But with the growth of the channel, and I see great growth in the channel as of recently, so like I said, I'm very appreciative of that, and I want to give you guys a big thank you. I will eventually get these bikes in hand, and we will do some thorough testing with these bikes, with other future bikes outside in the real world. So if you guys do want to see that content, I've said this previously, I ride a lot, so getting these tests done efficiently and on a timely manner is not going to be difficult. So if you guys do want to see that content, just try your best to support the channel, because everyone liking it, everyone subscribing, you know, in the overall long process of that is just going to help the content and quality of this channel grow, and will be a better viewing experience for you guys. So I don't want to keep rambling. If you guys liked it, that's great, and until the next one, keep on pedaling.